it now, and I ain't never gonna back down.
Hey everybody, and welcome to The Rise, where we talk to athletes about their ascension from the youth fields through high school, college, and all the way to the pros, and about the people and successes that helped them along the way. And I'm really excited about this conversation because we've got a Florida State legend, a Super Bowl champion in Bryant McFadden. B-Mac, I appreciate you joining us. How are you, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Roddy. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about your bio. I'm just going to run through it really quickly to give the viewers a snapshot of exactly what you've accomplished. So you're a guy that grew up in White Oak, South Carolina. You moved to Hollywood, Florida at the age of 10, where you became the #1 cornerback in the country out of MacArthur High School in Hollywood. That got you to Florida State, third team All-American in 2004, first team All-ACC, second round draft pick in that 2005 draft to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where you won 2 Super Bowls, spent 7 years in the NFL. When I list all of that out, what comes to mind? Because it's a pretty lengthy bio.
The feeling that I'm feeling listening to that bio from you, Roddy, is chills. I get chills hearing that because just knowing where I came from, like you said, White Oak, South Carolina, a small area, not a lot of resources, a lot of crime. And then me as a youngster living in that area, having a dream, a childhood dream.
Who else was in the house with you that helped support you through this process?
Well, at that time, living in South Carolina, I was, it was just me. Now, I had my cousins who visited every weekend, and they kind of got that physical nature going with me. Like when they came on the weekends, when we played yard football, I was going. I used to get lumped up all the time. Even to this day, I got a cut on my ear. My ear almost came off because I tried to cut someone low tackling football with no pads. Every other week I was getting lumped up, you know what I mean? And we didn't have a lot of ice in the house, so I used to put the frozen peas on my face and then try to keep the swelling from going down. So those were the individuals that kind of instilled that toughness in me. And that's where I gravitated to playing defense because I wanted to hit people. Just watching football religiously. We only had one television in the house. So I was forced to watch 3 things. Number 1, during the weekday, I was forced to watch the soap operas because my grandmother controlled the TV during the weekdays. So I watched every soap opera that came on CBS, from The Young and the Restless, The Bold and the Beautiful, As the World Turned, and Guiding Light that came on at 3 o'clock.
I'm starting to pick up that As the World Turns may have been your favorite of those soap operas. Am I on to something there?
Guiding Light, 3 o'clock. Guiding Light was my go-to. But anytime football was on or sports was on, I wouldn't turn my back. I was watching. I was learning. I was just becoming fascinated with the sports. And then football just became a part of me. So growing up, that's all I wanted to do. Quick story, in 3rd grade, we had career day, right? And I remember the requirements for every student was to bring something in that represented the career you would like to be in as an adult. I brought in a magazine. It was football-related magazine. So my teacher said no. She said, give me another profession. I said, no, I'm not. That's it. That's all I want to do, and I'm going to do that. And you might think it's not a profession, but to me, it is a profession, and that's what I want to do.
Where did that drive, that confidence that you could do it, where did that come from? Was there someone who told you early on, hey, B-Mac, don't let anybody tell you that you can't accomplish this dream?
It came from my mom. My mom was a very, very strong individual, and she used to always emphasize, speak positivity in your life. One thing she used to always tell me, faith without works is dead. Just because you have faith in something and have faith in making something happen, if you don't put forth the work, it would never happen. It would never become a reality. That dream will only be a dream.
So did you start playing football, organized football in South Carolina, or did that happen after you moved down?
My first time playing organized football was in 3rd grade.
Okay.
And at that time, because I was already a veteran of the game, to say the least, because we were playing yard football since I was in 1st grade, but first time playing organized football with pads. It was something different about me than the other kids. You know what I mean? It wasn't just a sense of confidence. I felt like I was supposed to be here. I felt like this was my destiny. And the thing about football for me during those years, football wasn't my passion. It was my purpose.
So growing up in South Carolina, even though White Oak, South Carolina is closer to Columbia than to Clemson, you grew up a Clemson fan. How'd that come about?
On weekends, college football was huge in my house.
Yeah.
Watching Raycom Sports, who used to always have the main ACC matchups. And Clemson was always one of the top teams in the conference at that time before Florida State jumped into the conference. Remember, Clemson used to run the ACC. Danny Ford was like one of my top coaches. I still highly respect Danny Ford. You know, when you talk about Clemson football, before you can talk about Dabo Swinney, you better put some respect on Danny Ford's name. You know what I mean? So you look at some of the outstanding players that he had to come through Clemson, you know, LaVon Kirkland's of the world, you know what I mean? You got B. Dog, you know what I mean? So I wanted to run down the hill. And I used to, man, I love Clemson. Like, I used to love Clemson everything. When the Davis brothers were there playing basketball, I was a Clemson basketball fan as well, along with being Duke. You know, I was a favorite, Grant Hill was my favorite college player, so I gravitated to Duke basketball. But that's how my love for Clemson surfaced early on in my life.
Let's talk about the move to South Florida and get into your high school days. You went to MacArthur High School down there in Hollywood. At what point, B-Mac, this is always fascinating to me because there was a point where I was in high school where I knew, all right, I can do this at the next level. I'm better than these dudes. I am good enough to play at the next level. What was that point for you?
I was playing corner on JV. We were like 3-0, 4-0. Team was rolling. Man, we had a great JV team. Varsity was having issues in the secondary. So it was almost like it was a supplemental draft. They drafted me up during the season from JV to varsity. They called me in the office and said, B-Mac, you got to go play varsity. I'm like, what do you mean I got to go? It's like, the varsity team needs you. So they asked me, do you want to go? I said, no, I don't want to go. I want to stay down here in JV. And he's like, well, B-Mac, it would be a great opportunity for you. I didn't care anything about the opportunity. I just want to have fun. So ultimately I played. But the very first game, Roddy, we played against a powerhouse in Dade County called South Dade High School. Oh, yeah. They had a receiver who was like 6'3", about 190, had all the scholarship offers. I'm a true freshman, high school, might be 164 pounds. Yeah. Might be. And that game, I gave up a touchdown. And I told myself that night when it happened, I would never give up another touchdown again. Wow. That was the only touchdown I gave up in high school. So after that, I was just mad at myself for allowing this dude to catch a pass. So it was a corner route. It was a post corner too. He got me on the post. I had itchy eyes at that time. When I say itchy eyes, they were too aggressive. Right. I saw that post. I was trying to jump it. He hit me with the corner. Wide open touchdown. We lost that ball game. I was so disappointed in myself. I'm like, never again. I'm not giving up a touchdown.
Bryant McFadden on his life in Tallahassee with the Noles when we return.
The biggest, big time experience I saw was with Bobby Bowden.
You are watching The Rise, presented by Origin Sports. And that swagger propelled you to being the #1 cornerback in the country. So I want to talk about the recruiting process. Because you grew up a Clemson fan, you're in Hollywood, Florida, which is less than an hour from the campus of the University of Miami, the U. You end up going to Florida State, but what was the recruiting process like?
It's funny because growing up, I hated Miami and Florida State. I hated them with a passion. They were always celebrating. I was so humble, and I felt like when you win and you do good things, you shouldn't have to let everybody know. But they were the top 2 schools that were coming at me. Makes sense because I'm an in-state. I never liked Florida, so I told Spurrier at that time, I don't want you to waste your time. I'm not even going to consider you. I just didn't like them. I was a big deal in South Florida because I was the #1 corner in the country. Everyone in the area knew me. I was the best player in the state.
Yeah.
I had so many coaches just coming through the school. You know, the who's of who, from what university, where.
Is there one that stands out for either making an entrance or like everybody in the school stops and you know, it's like, you know, a deity has walked in?
The biggest, big time experience I saw was with Bobby Bowden. Now, Bobby didn't come to my school, but when he made the home visit and somehow or another word got out throughout the county in Broward that Bobby was coming to my house. And upon Bobby coming to my house, I had all the members of the staff at my high school giving me memorabilia for him to sign. So before we even got into the home visit, when Bobby walks into my house, I had a table laid out of pictures, posters, shirts, hats, and I was so embarrassed to ask him, but I said, Coach Bowden, I'm sorry, but these are items from people in my school, not classmates, but adults that work at my school, and they want to know, could you sign these items? No problem, Mac. What do you need to do? Whatever you need to do. You have a marker. You have a black marker? Yeah, we got one, coach. As a matter of fact, they supplied the markers for us. So he had about a 15-minute signing before we even got to the home visit.
So what sealed the deal for Florida State?
It was between Florida State and Miami. So the issue with Miami, Butch Davis, home visit, came into my house. He asked me, told me everything they were trying to do, they wanted to do. Remember that he just started to, revitalize the program, to say the least. And he asked me, did I have any concerns? I said, well, would you ever leave Miami to go to the NFL? He told me, no, I'll be there your entire time there in Coral Gables. I didn't believe him. So when it came to Bobby already had opportunities to leave. He just didn't, and he was older. So I knew Bobby would be there for the most part. If Bobby left, he probably retired. But I didn't think Bobby would leave to take another job. So that was basically the deciding factor. And along with the development of guys in the secondary, being able to go get coached by a guy that coached Deion Sanders, Terrell Buckley, Leroy Butler, you know what I mean? The who's of who, Samari Rowe, Corey Sawyer, Clifton Abraham, you know what I mean? Derek Gibson, Mario Elvis, Chris Hope, Tay Cody, you know what I mean? Whoever you want to call, coach these guys. Like, yo, that same coach that coached them gonna coach me? I like that. That's a pretty good, that's a nice gig to be a part of. So that was the deciding factor for me.
So you decide to go to Florida State. You have an incredible career, but I want to start with your freshman year, because I obviously went through a recruiting process. It was nothing like yours. Bobby Bowden did not come to my house, and he did have the opportunity. I would have welcomed him in. But I knew going into college that there was a chance that I was going to redshirt. You came in as the number one cornerback in the country and end up having to redshirt because of injury. Redshirting's awful. That had to be tough. So what was that year like?
You still see the disgust on my face.
Oh, it's terrible, man.
When they told me I had to redshirt, I had to get a medical red shirt. I thought they were playing around with me. I remember I called my mom. I said, "Mom, they trying to put a woozle on me. They trying to fool me." She's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Man, they talk about I got a red shirt. That mean I can't play." Like, I wasn't trying to do that. My job was to come in here and play immediately. I'm the number one corner in the country. You know how embarrassing that was for me to be. The first game of the season was BYU in Jacksonville, national TV, and I'm on the sideline in street clothes. I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be on the football field padded up. And she was like, what you want to do? I said, let's call Miami. I'm transferring. I said, no, let's call Miami. Let's do it. She said, boy, stop. I said, no, man, because I literally thought they were lying to me. That's just the immature thinking, because I'm like, maybe they don't want me to dress and I play, and they don't want me to leave school early. They want to get all 4 years of my services. So I said, let's call Miami. But in actuality, it was a legit injury I was doing. I had a fractured vertebrae. So they saw I had a fractured vertebrae, and it's like, Mac, you can't play. Because if something happens to you, you play the wrong hit, you might not walk again.
That's crazy.
So that led to me sitting out my freshman year, which was tough, but I had to, because, luckily they saw what was going on, and I didn't get a chance to play in a ball game and try to tackle someone, or someone hit me. My vertebrae just, you know what I mean? So I'm happy they were able to catch that.
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's one of those things where if you don't go to Florida State, maybe they don't catch it, and maybe there's a different result to this. So it's incredible when you think about it. More Rise with two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden after this.
Go out there and get in the fight. Let me see what you got.
You played for some legends at Florida State when you did get on the field in 01 through 04. You played for some legends. Bobby Bowden, Mickey Andrews, played with some great players. But I want to talk about Coach Andrews. What type of impact did he have on you? I see the smile lighten up when even thinking about him. What do you think about?
Andrews was wonderful for me. Not just my football career, but in my personal life. You know what I mean? The journey. His ability to get you to do what you think you can't do was so consistent. You know what I mean? And his ability to not accept failure was something that he emphasized to us. You miss a tackle because you wanted to miss a tackle. That's why. That's why you didn't make the tackle. Look at the tape. You were there. He wanted it more than you did. When someone beats you deep, you let them. It's not about the call. It's because you let them. Stop letting these people beat you. Get in the fight. Give me a corner that's going to go out there and get in the fight, was his favorite thing he used to say. I want to get out there and get in the fight. And if you're gonna lose, you better go down swinging. You better fight till the end. Finish whatever it is you're going to start. Academically, finish it. When you get on this football field, fourth quarter, finish. You know what I mean? And those are things he emphasized. You know what I mean? So I still follow those same things today. You know what I mean? I still hear his voice in my head sometimes, cursing me out. What are you doing? I thought you was gonna be special. You a dog like the rest of them. I say, Coach, you literally called me a dog? Like, really? Like, now, coaches can't really handle players like that way now, because a lot of players might be like, But back then, he wanted that tenacity to come out and be consistent. Organized chaos is what he wanted. He wanted nothing but chaos, but he wanted to be organized. You know what I mean? And be disciplined. Because he always said, if I can't trust you in the classroom to go do what you're supposed to do, to show up on time, how can I trust you in the football field? It was a love-hate relationship. At that time, we kind of disliked him a whole lot, because he would cuss us out like a dog. Oh my goodness. Call you everything. But then he'd whisper in your ear, go out there and get in the fight. Let me see what you got. Let me see what you got. The way you want to come at old coach, go at that wide receiver the same way. And I'm like, hey, coach, that's what you want. That's what you get.
Well, the success that you had in college and the success that Coach Andrews, the mentality, the lessons that he instilled in you and those guys around you led to you being drafted in the second round, number 62 overall, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Take me to draft day.
Nerve-wracking. Most players, and I say this all the time, there are only a handful of players that are happy with where they got selected. You know what I mean? If you're in the top 5, maybe top 6, you're happy. But outside of that, when you get to the top 10 area, outside the top 10, most players that get drafted feel like they should have got drafted higher. And I thought I should have gotten drafted higher.
Yep.
I remember my high school coach at the time, Coach Keith Franklin, when I got drafted, I walked outside. And because I had a lot of people at my house, family and friends.
Of course.
He said, man, what's wrong? I said, man, I'm mad. I got drafted later than I thought. He's like, man, don't worry about that, man. Look at the situation you're going to. It's like, you're going to a team that always competes for playoff spots and championships. That's going to outweigh your individual letdown. I heard him, but I didn't hear him. Like, I don't care nothing about what you talking about, Coach. I got to go to Pittsburgh. It reminds me of Gotham City from Batman. It looks like
and it's
always
cold. You're a South Florida guy. Yeah. I mean, it was cold, too. That's got to play into it.
And when I got to Pittsburgh, man, it was like, wow, I'm playing for real grown men right now. I mean, guys that are in the weight room lifting big weight. Guys that are in the football field doing big things. I was like, this is what big-time football is. And we just had a storied year. So many good people that were a part of that team. I'm not surprised to see the success we had, because we had great people. We were a selfless group. You know what I mean? The guys that were competing with, the corners, the Shea Townsend, Ike Taylors, Ricardo Coakley, Willie Williams, all these guys were helping me. They didn't see me as a threat. They saw me as an asset. You know what I mean? And for us to get to where we were trying to go, at some point in time, they may need me. And whenever that time comes, I got to be ready. And they wanted to make sure I was ready. And that led to a championship in Super Bowl 40.
Your rookie year, you guys go to the Super Bowl, you beat Seattle. It's your first year in the NFL, and you've reached the pinnacle of the sport. Take me there.
Roddy, I literally thought I was supposed to go to the Super Bowl every year. I didn't know that it's tough to get to the Super Bowl. Like, we did it my rookie year, so my next year, I'm like, well, heck, I guess we're going to do it again, right? It was a surreal moment. I'm like, yo, I'm playing the Super Bowl, and I'm actually playing. You know what I mean? As a rookie, I'm actually playing as a rookie, and we were able to reach that level and win it all. I was like, man.
That was one of the Super Bowls that I remember the most vividly. The other Super Bowl that I remember one of the most vividly is the second Super Bowl, the second time you guys won it.
So that was a great experience, and it was in the state of Florida. You know what I mean? My hometown state. So I was getting
tickets? How many tickets do you have to get?
I had a set of cap, but I had an opportunity to have my family that drove up from South Florida to watch the game in Tampa.
And you make it to another Super Bowl. You guys lose to Green Bay and Arlington in 2011.
2011 Super Bowl, which was 2010 season. And then going into that next year was actually my last year in 2011.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But I played in the first game of 2011 and tore my hamstring. So I ended up tearing my hamstring twice.
And that ended up being your last game in the league. Did you know at the time that you were done?
And I just never got back to being the player that I once was. And that was devastating for me. And I know most people, when you talk about their NFL career, it might not end how they want it to end. But when you get to that moment, it's very, very tough to swallow.
Yeah.
I use that disappointment and that anger, and I allowed that to push me. So instead of having that disappointment and anger stand in front of me, it got behind me and it pushed me.
I like that.
It pushed me.
I like that a lot. Coming up, Life After Football. Bryant and his cousin, who just so happens to be all-pro cornerback Patrick Peterson, have all things covered on their popular podcast.
I ain't never seen Nick Saban do a podcast. Those are the people we've been able to get on.
The second act, if you will. You had your first career, your second career as a broadcaster. You've got this incredibly popular podcast, All Things Covered. You and your cousin Patrick Peterson, you guys do a great job. You guys make people feel comfortable. They're opening up to you. How'd that come about?
I was doing stuff for CBS, HQ, and I thought about ways of being innovative and creative. So I started to do FaceTime Live, Instagram Live segments with athletes, professional players. And I did one for my cousin Patrick Peterson. So I asked him, I was like, did you enjoy it? How did it go for you? What's the feel? He's like, yeah, I thought it was cool. You know, talking to you was easy because I've been knowing you my whole life. I'm like, okay, cool. So I said, you know what? What if I created a podcast? Would you be okay in joining it with me? He's like, I mean, yeah, if it fits my schedule. I said, okay, cool. Number one, I had to think of a name.
Right.
And then I came up with the name, All Things Covered. We were covered corners. We covered people. On our podcast, we're covering everything. So I presented this idea to CBS, and they were like, well, we love it. Will you be able to devote the time and attention to make this thing a success? I'm like, no doubt. And now we've been so fortunate to get great guests on. Like, we had Nick Saban on. Like, I ain't never seen Nick Saban do a podcast. I know he's done one with Charles Barkley and someone else. I can't remember who else it was. I think it was Ernie Johnson.
Ernie Johnson, Saban, yeah, the steam room.
Yeah, Nick Saban is not doing podcasts. Mike Tomlin is not doing podcasts. Kirby Smart is not doing podcasts. Odell Beckham Jr., you know what I mean, is not doing regular, normal podcasts. Those are the people we've been able to get on.
Right. That's
been a blessing, and we're going to continue to add and add to our repertoire and keep chopping wood. And whenever that tree falls, we're going to find another tree, and we're going to keep chopping.
Absolutely. Well, B-Mac, this was a pleasure, man. It was fascinating hearing your story. Really appreciate you sharing. It's been fun.
Man, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure as well, Roddy. And I guess one of the things you guys will always remember about me outside of football, I love some guiding light.
Yeah, absolutely. Be sure to check in for our other Rise shows and also memorable games on Origin Sports. I'm Roddy Jones, and I appreciate you guys joining us.